And welcome to our second intermission. As promised, Brandon Crow, the play-by-play voice of the Nipawin Hawks, as well as the Melfort Mustangs, on behalf of CK750, joins us here tonight. We always have fun with this, the beginning of the season, with an opening weekend in the SJHL. Prediction time. Everybody's got a prediction. Everybody certainly looking forward to the season. And Brandon, I guess first and foremost, thanks a lot for doing this with us here this weekend.
Oh, yeah, no problem. Anytime, Rob.
It's always fun, to do these predictions, especially when, you look at the preseason. Teams had, most nights didn't have their A1 lineup that they're going to ice this weekend and throughout the year, and it's always interesting to kind of put a bold prediction out there. It seems like to me, and you and I have talked even before we went to air here today, it looks like the division, once again, is probably going to be wide open. Again, we always talk about parity in the SJHL, and again, it appears that's the name of the game this year.
I would 100% agree with you. I'm going to say that it's kind of going to be like the CFL, I imagine, in a sense where anybody can win on any given night, and I think it's going to be really, really close. Like I was just saying to you there, I mean, really, when you look at the rosters, Flin Flon, Nipawin, Battlefords, Humboldts are all going to be pretty good again, just like they were last year. Even I think Flin Flon's got stronger, Nipawin's got stronger. Battleford's probably about the same as they were last year, and you look all the way down, and Melfort, they've improved. They've got 18 returning guys that have got a year under their belt. They've got probably one of the better goalies in the North coming back in Jesse Wilkins, and then Larange. They may be the weak link in the North, but I say that just based on their returning players, not taking into consideration that Bob Beattie seems to always pull a rabbit out of his hat with the guys that he ices. So I think really it's going to be anybody can win on any given night, and I do not think that anything will be finalized in regards to playoff standings until the last week of the season.
Yeah, I think it'll be tight again, and obviously somebody has to miss the playoffs. That remains to be seen. Quickly, we'll break it down team by team here, Brandon. Let's begin with the defending league champs, a team that you followed very closely in the Royal Bank Cup, the Humboldt Broncos. A lot of firepower up front is gone, but there's still some pretty good players remaining. And Towiak, to me, should be a key guy to watch for them. Lawrence, they got some big guys that, certainly some bigger forwards that could probably still do some damage in this league.
Yeah, you know what? Humboldt's actually in a pretty good position because they kept a bunch of younger guys with them throughout their big playoff run and the RBC Cup. Guys like David Miazga, Rhett Blackmere, David Stumborg, Cody Pettipiece, and all these guys that were around and saw what it took and were a part of everything and practiced and even got into a few games. So those guys that are still technically probably considered rookies by most people's standards are actually probably have a little more experience than most guys in the SJHL just based on what they went through last year. As you mentioned, size is key for them. John Lawrence is back. He's big and ready to go again. And Koyak, as you said, he's big up front. They actually picked up a guy from the Western League as well, Brandon The Rock. He came from Seattle. He's a 20-year-old. Talking with Dean, I imagine he's got a couple more guys kind of on the fence right now with the whole Western League 20-year-old deadline kind of looming in the next couple of weeks here. I think it's October 3rd or October 10th or something like that. But I imagine that he's got a lot of irons in the fire, and goaltending is key for them too. They got Matt Harinke back. He was unbelievable last year. And on defense, Cam Ballas is there too. So really not much changes from Humboldt. There'll be some fresh faces and some big firepower gone, but we've seen it from them time and time again that it doesn't take much to reload and put a competitive team on the ice.
Everybody talking about the Nipawin Hawks. SJHL Coach of the Year Doug Johnston, just did a masterful job. I don't know how many people, you would know this following the team day to day, but I'm not sure how many people realize that he had 6 regulars out of the lineup after Christmas and was still winning hockey games last year.
Yeah, they were absolutely depleted. You go into the locker room and they're for practice or right after the morning skate, and there was more guys standing around in tracksuits than there were guys taking their gear off because guys just weren't practicing because they were too banged up to practice and didn't want to hurt themselves even more for the games. And these guys, they battled all year long. I mean, Wheaton King at one point last year got a little virus in him, as well as a bit of an injury, and he lost, I think, somewhere around 20 pounds at one point in about a week span, and kept playing, and still produced and put up numbers. And these guys were banged up really bad. I mean, they lost one of their best defensemen in Williamson with a shoulder injury. It was just injury after injury. Tad Cozen, who was on pace to be the Rookie of the Year last year, he breaks his leg. But you know what? They battled really hard. And when you look at their season, they opened up 10-1 and were ranked number 2 in the country in that first week. If you remember that great start they had, they fell apart after that, and I think they lost 12 of their next 16 or something like that. and after that, they really turned it on, and there was no looking back. It was consistently winning on a nightly basis for the Nipawin Hawks, and it didn't matter who was in the lineup. Everybody bought into it. They were bringing guys in, bringing AAA guys in, Garrett Lockridge, Baber, all these guys were coming in and out of AAA to come in and play, and they just got it done. They got it done, and it was all on the heels of the goalie of the year last year, Davis Jones, and he'll be relied on again this year. But Doug Johnson had all the guys buying into it, and it worked. And we saw what they did, taking Battlefords to 7 games and overtime in 7 games. So 1 goal difference, and we could have had a whole different look in the playoffs last year. So I'm looking for them to continue that and be just as good this year, if not better.
We only got a couple minutes remaining here. We got a few other teams to get through. The Battle for North Stars, you mentioned them. They took Humboldt to 6 games, gave them quite the battle. It looked like Humboldt was going to demolish them in the early on, then Battleford kind of got going. Hasselberg was a nominee for Coach of the Year last year. I thought he did a pretty nice job his first year in the league, and people feel that they'll be probably in the top 3 again.
I would think so, but it's hard to tell with the Battle for North Stars. I mean, Kevin Hasselberg usually plays his cards pretty close to his chest, and they brought in some guys and to replace a lot of guys leaving last year. Obviously, Woody Clausen is a huge loss for them. Mitch Berg, guys like that they're losing. Graham Hildebrand, their number 1 goalie. They got Connor Creech in net, and I think that's the only real question mark with the Battlefords right now. We know they can score goals. They got a big defensive core, but goaltending is going to be key. With a guy that played last year, I think he played about 30 games as coming in relief of Hildebrand at times. That'll be the big question for the Battlefords North Stars. If they can shore up and get some solid goaltending from Creech or maybe bring in somebody else, they'll be just fine. And we saw their heart and their work ethic in that series against Humboldt, one of the best series of the playoffs last year. And really all the credit to Kevin Hasselberg and his staff. And I think, like you said, probably a top 3 finish for them again this year. Larange,
like we said, was kind of an up-and-down team last year. They were coming off back-to-back league championships. I thought might give the Humboldt Broncos a little bit more of a problem in the playoffs. It didn't appear that way. Bob Beattie not saying a lot, and it was interesting. You picked them to miss out of the playoffs. The last time I did an SJHL preview show with somebody that picked Larange to miss the playoffs, they won back-to-back league titles. I'm wondering if they're going to be as dangerous as ever. It seems like we don't hear anything about them. Look out, because all of a sudden they just seem to find guys wherever.
That's the thing with Larange. That's why I bite my tongue every time I say that. It's just the only reason I say that is because on paper, and I know paper doesn't win you hockey games, they don't have many guys returning, and goaltending will be key for them, as it's been in the last few years. Obviously last year with Alex Rajat just leading the way coming out of Quebec. But that's the thing about Bob Beattie. He brings these guys in, Marc-Andre Correa, Alex Rajat last year, all these guys that are just come out of nowhere, nobody's ever heard of them, and they put up either 100 points or 100 shutouts. So really the key for us media guys is the loss of Daniel Fink, which means that no signings or recruits or trades have been reported all summer out of Laurent, so nobody really has a clue what Bob Beattie has in his hand right now, and we've seen him a couple times in the preseason, but it's been a very young roster, so I don't know. I bite my tongue when I say it, but that's my bold prediction, and I hope I'm wrong because I like Bob Beattie and I love watching the Ice Wolves play hockey, but I think based on the paper and the way things are lined up right now, that's my bold prediction, and I'll probably be smacking myself once the season's done, knowing Bob Beattie.
We only got about a minute to go. Melfort, Flin Flon, the two teams that meet head-to-head here this weekend, are feature matchups. Quickly, your thought. Melfort obviously nowhere to go but up. The coaching change basically had to really kind of rebuild the list. I think everybody knows the story for young Gavin Holcomb. A team that I thought, you want to talk about Coach of the Year candidates, they might not have had a lot of wins, but you want to talk about teams on paper, you would look at that Melfort lineup and say, these guys don't have a hope. But yet they'd come out and they'd play games, they'd beat some teams, and they, to me, might be the most interesting team to watch.
I agree with you completely, and I spent all summer with these guys and working here in Melfort. I'm around them a lot, and I see the group that they have, and coming in this year, they're a really tight-knit group. I mean, when they came in for training camp, they came in 2 weeks early. They were doing all this training in the gym. They were playing slow pitch. They were going golfing together. I mean, it's a really tight-knit group, as I've seen over the last couple of weeks. They got a lot of talent. They brought in this Brandon Formosa kid. They got some nice AAA kids in Reagan Wilton and Jay Austin and Sheldon Argent coming in, and 13 wins, obviously, like you said, nowhere to go but up for them. But the attitude around the team has changed. They're confident. They feel like they can win. All it's going to come down to is scoring goals. They got a guy, Wilkins, who can stop the puck. If they can put the puck in the back of the net 2, 3, 4 times a night, they will be golden. And I think, honestly, playoffs might still be a stretch, but I would imagine they can at least get close to doubling their win total from last year. I think the rebuild's still 1 year away, but it's going to be a great year in Melfort.
The Flin Flon Bombers, the other team in the division, and almost everybody's back. They bring everybody back but Brett Penner up front. Obviously, the addition of Josh Roach is a big move for them, who I think is the best offensive defenseman in the league that I've seen. Quickly, what do you know about Flin Flon? What are the expectation levels? Let's face it, Mike Reagan, he needs to do something this season.
I would agree with you again. I think Josh Roach is very underrated in a sense that I think you're right. He is the best offensive defenseman in the SJHL, if not in Junior A hockey. I mean, this guy can do it all. We saw him play forward in the RBC Cup and right through the Anavet Cup. You know he's got the scoring touch. He can set plays up, and he's got eyes like nobody else. And I think he will be a huge addition to the Flin Flon team that's already loaded up. But there's a lot of guys on Flin Flon I'm interested to see, and a guy like Cole McKegg and guys like that, and see if they can come together and play consistent all year long and provide that firepower that everyone thinks they're going to have. Goaltending as well for them. I mean, reigning goaltender, rookie of the year up there in net with them, and I know personally, everyone down here in Melfort and Nipawin and Humboldt's all talking, hey, what's Flin Flon got? They're going to be pretty good. So I think Flin Flon will be top 3, if not top 2, but it's going to come down to consistent goaltending and just relentless effort every night. I don't think they can coast into it. I think they're going to have to earn it, and I think a lot of teams are going to maybe squeeze the sticks a little tighter and try a little harder when they're playing Flin Flon this year.
That's why we play the games. It's going to be a lot of fun. Brandon, thanks for this. Good luck to both the Hawks and the Mustangs this season.
All right, anytime, Rob, and good luck with the Bombers.
Brandon Crow, the play-by-play voice from CK750, the SJHL preview show on CFAR 590 and FlinFlonOnline.com.